Rick Santorum getting his ass handed to him on Fox News Channel of all places. Chris Wallace rolling up his sleeves and going to work on my homes here. He does it on a couple of different ways. Let's go to the first one.
One thing that you propose is replacing the IRS and the current tax code with what you call a fair flat tax. Question, how do you create, impose a flat tax that, one, isn't going to gut the federal treasury, that's going to raise enough money, and two, isn't going to end up being a bonanza for the top 1%?
Well, first off, those numbers are based on a static model.
But if you lower the tax rate as much as you are for the top, they're going to do a lot better than the middle class, because they're getting a bigger
The whole idea is to treat everybody fairly. That's the reason we're looking at a flat tax. We'll have provisions in there that make sure that lower and middle income Americans are not going to pay more taxes, in fact, pay less taxes. But the bottom line is we have to create growth.
So if you watch the whole interview, Chris Wallace kept asking follow-up questions. Very well done. And talked about how the Tax Policy Center pointed out that under Rick Santorum's plan, yes, the middle class would get a $4,000 break. That sounds pretty good, right? Well, there's a couple of costs. First of all, it would reduce federal revenue by 40%. These guys pretend to be concerned about the deficit. Okay. Secondly, the middle class with a nice $4,000 tax break. So how much of a tax break does the average person in the top 1% get? You ready for this? $350,000. The whole plan is an enormous giveaway to the top 1% who fund Rick Santorum's campaign. Oh, I'm trying to be fair. Fair my ass. On average, they get a $350,000 tax break, the top 1% under Rick Santorum. Chris Wallace does a good job of calling him out on that. He also called him out on his statements about the Pope, how Rick Santorum said the Pope should leave science to the scientists. Let's watch that part.
Here you are.
The church has gotten it wrong a few times on science, and I think that we probably are better off leaving science to the scientists and focusing on what we do, what we're really good at, which is theology and morality.
2 points. If he's not a scientist, and in fact he does have a degree in chemistry, neither are you.
I agree.
And that's one point. And the second point is that somewhere between 80 and 90% of the scientists who have studied this say that human activity contributes to climate change. So I guess the question would be, if he shouldn't talk about it, should you?
Well, we have to make public policy with regard to the environmental policy.
But you're not a scientist. You said leave science to the scientists.
Well, but the point is that politicians, whether we like it or not, people in government have to make decisions with respect to our public policy that affect American workers. Speculative science, which has proven over time not to have checked out all the predictions that were made 15 years ago, none of them have come true. So all of this certainty, this is what bothers me about this debate. The idea that the science is settled. Anytime you hear a scientist say the science is settled, that's political science, not real science, because no scientist in their right mind would say ever that science is settled.
Well, the science is settled on some things. The Earth is not flat, it is round. The Earth also has this thing called gravity. That's fairly well settled. If you'd like, you could test it out, see how that goes. Oh, the scientist telling me about gravity, that's not settled at all. And more importantly, wait a minute. The whole reason you got into this trouble was because you said the Pope should leave science to the scientists. Now, when you're asked about what the scientists actually say, goddamn scientists, nothing's settled anyway. I'm not going to listen to them. I'm going to do whatever I want. Oh, I see. Finally, to add insult to injury, Rick Santorum's been complaining that he might not be able to get into the Fox News debates because there's 17 Republican candidates and only 10 of them will be in the debate. Let's see that exchange here.
You have complained more publicly than any other candidate about the Fox ground rules, which are going to be the top 10 candidates in national polls, and here's the most recent Fox poll. What's your objection?
When I won the Iowa caucuses in January of 2012, I was at 4% in the national polls.
But the flip side is what Carly Fiorina said, which is, you've given me a goal, you've given me 2 months, I got to get in.
Well, but again, is that what a campaign should be about? Is trying to measure whether we meet some criteria?
Yeah, like the criteria of whether you get more votes or not. So, look, one can argue about how you set debates, and I think it's a fair argument. But for this guy to say, I am an awesome candidate, I finished second last time around, I should obviously be included in the debates, even though I'm basically not registering in the national polls. It is a curious argument and one that Chris Wallace had some fun with there. Yeah, credit to Chris Wallace, really nice job doing, shockingly, journalism at Fox News Channel. And my favorite part was in the middle of the second clip, as Wallace continues to challenge him, Rick Santorum has that look on his face like, I thought I was going on Fox News.